Hello, beautiful beings. Welcome to Let's Create the Revolution Together, a podcast about creating new ways to embody ourselves as human. If you're here, you're probably well aware of all the shifts that are happening on our planet. Maybe you go with the flow with those changes, or maybe you're struggling to find who you truly are. Either way, this space right here is for you. My name is Marigol. I'm an Ayurvedic wellness coach, a spiritual life coach, and a podcaster. I am here to guide you through this reality that we can call the Earth School. I strongly believe that we are here to create new ways to show up as individual and as collective, and that every experience that we encounter is an opportunity to grow and evolve. So grab yourself something to drink, make yourself comfortable, and let's jump right into the next episode. Hello, beautiful beings. Today on Let's Create the Revolution Together, I'm meeting with Eric Paulson. So this guy used to be a corporate chef, and after meeting resistance, he actually not so long ago chose to step outside his 3D job to shift his life into a more spiritually aligned one. So he's now a PEMF / Rife Therapist and a Dr. Usui Reiki Master. He also integrates herbalism and counseling into his always evolving business. You can check him out on YouTube, actually. So that is at Your Essential Practice. So check him out. This is where he's doing all kinds of cool video about like astrology, numerology, tarot, runes, and crystals, and all kinds of stuff like that. He knows that this is the good time. This is actually the time for him to show up differently. And so he's going to tell us his story, his side, his version of this revolution that we're all creating right now. So let's hear it for Eric Paulson. All right.
Hi, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. I'm sorry if I mispronounce any of the words that I did, like the PEMF. I wasn't sure.
Perfect. So everybody pronounces the Reiki therapy a little differently as well. So that's fine. You did perfect.
Thank you. I actually practiced it a lot because I was like, how am I supposed to say that?
Yeah, so it's all like just a matter of our accents, right? So
Yes.
like I say Dr. Usui, other people say Usui, Usui. I know I've heard every variation of it. It's fine.
Amazing. So let's start where you were actually a chef. And then let's start there.
Yeah, so I've been a chef or in the culinary industry for over 29 years. I was hoping to get up to year 30 and just retire would be great. However, job security in that industry is not a thing. Like it is extremely volatile as far as longevity goes in any sort of kitchen. And if anybody out there works kitchens or restaurants, you definitely know what I'm talking about. I'm sure a lot of us have had, those part-time jobs as dishwashers or waitresses or something of that matter through high school to help kind of make some bills like through the summer. So that's what it started off with for me. And it was kind of an escape to get out of the household at that time too. When I turned 14 years old, my father got me a worker's permit for my birthday. So, I was at that point just starting to work, and I, started off as a dishwasher and, worked my way up the ranks and, prep cook, sous chef was soon to follow. And, throughout time, I eventually did become an executive chef, and all over the Midwest here is where I've pretty much focused. Parts of Illinois, parts of Minnesota, but all over Wisconsin mostly. And it's rough. Like I've been in some very economically depressed areas trying to make ends meet. And during that time as well as a single father. So working primarily second shifts, like my heart goes out to any parents who work second shifts, especially you single ones out there. It is hard. Like it is definitely hard, and you end up. So the two main things that happen with people in the culinary industry, and especially chefs who are overwhelmed with all the stress, like, and all this anxiety and everything, and it's day to day to day. We end up, okay, the first thing is substance abuse is the first thing that a lot of us encounter, and the second is divorce or separation, or familial strife of that kind. So I faced both of those,
Mm.
and I ended up going through a divorce and being a single father throughout that, and as well as also having my own toxicities to deal with as far as substance abuse goes, and that was mainly alcohol.
Mm.
But I did get into drugs, nothing super bad, but still it was a very bad habit of mine. It was an escape, and it's something that diminished, my well-being in the long run. So I really had to work on therapies for that. Um, so a little bit of a rewind as far as that goes. I've always been into Christianity. Growing up, my parents had me into evangelical at first, and then later on First Baptist sort of Christianity. Those sorts of walks of faith there. A lot of my friends in high school were Lutheran and Catholic as well, so I've attended those churches and
Mm.
ceremonies as well, and I really got into like looking at the differences and the commonalities as well of all these different religions. And so during that time, I was about, it was right after I had started working in the industry, and I was about 15 years old, and my parents were going through a divorce. And
Mm.
that really shook me to the core and kicked off my dark night of the soul, which lasted many years. I'd say if I were to give it a date, I'd say about 2013, 2014.
Mm.
And but I've been working on a lot of that, like knowing that the answer for me, the therapy for me was out there somewhere. I went through a lot of different instances where I did try to take it out on myself through, the substance abuse. When I
Yeah.
couldn't find any answers I was looking for, I looked up different religions, different aspects of other religions, and just finding that I understood things just a little bit differently than most people that would just like take it at face value, like, let there be light, God flipped the light switch. I'm like, yeah, no, it's a little bit more than that. Like, I think there's something more, kind of thing. So I always thought there was something more, and I always wanted to learn something new every day. And so that became my addiction, right?
Mm.
Is learning something new. So when we give up a vice, we tend to replace it with another. So when we're releasing an energy, it's good to have something healthy to take its place.
Yeah.
So that for me became like more into the mentalism and studying things like I got into quantum physics and how that agreed with spirituality.
Mm.
And in all this time I was learning, in the chef and the culinary industry, I eventually went and got certified at Le Cordon Bleu through Mendota Heights in Minnesota at about the 11 to 12 year mark through my experiences throughout being a chef. And that's around the same time also that my divorce started with
Mm.
my children's mother. So I ended up having to leave there temporarily, just so I could, band-aid solutions and be a father, and make sure the kids were all right and all that stuff, right? And so that, was another part of a dark night of the soul. Like as soon as we think that we're on the way out of some sort of lesson, universe says, oh yeah, are you sure? Are you sure? uh, let's really make sure.
Yeah, let's put you to the test just to make sure everything you
Yeah,
integrated everything.
yeah, and it's unreal. Like, and I always thought like, oh, I'm the victim here. Like the world's out to get me.
Mm.
I'm like, well, no, kind of like I was asking for that kind of stuff because I get all cocky and in my ego, I'm like, hey, I just learned this lesson. I'm totally healed now. I'm like, oh, yeah. So I'm a lot more in tune now with how we address things, energetically,
Yeah.
and really studying the laws of Hermeticism and the laws of Hermetics. Like reading the Kabbalion was a big one for me.
Mm.
That really, it's like manifestation 101. And that to me shed a lot of light on a lot of dark corners of my life.
Mm.
Um, Along with being a chef continuously throughout like this whole experience, to pay the bills, I was a chef, and I've always been a chef. And I was, kitchen manager, or, whatever you want to call it. Just I was usually in upper management for about the last 10 years or so in the industry. So after, so the repetitive resistance, what that came from was like, okay, I was starting, for instance, I was a corporate chef for Panera Bread at one point, and I was kicking things off with the VP of communications
Mm.
to start a mental health awareness program throughout the whole corporation, because I did, express that, like, okay, they have a lot of great systems in place and a lot of great outlets. However, this one aspect is missing. And when a lot of like the universe is mental kind of stuff, like what we think we create, I mean, it's all mental, right? So I was thinking,
Mm.
okay, so let's get this started. And they were all on board and everything, and then all of a sudden they came up with some stupid reason to put everything on hold, and I ended up getting suspended for some sort of investigation of some allegation of something from I something I said, at work that was like inappropriate. I'm like, really? This is like the first time I've ever come across this in my whole career.
Mm.
And yes, I get it. Chefs can talk, like that, and be very egotistical. However,
Yeah.
this is pretty recent, like within the last few years, where I've done like a lot of healing work, and I couldn't even swear at work. So I
Mm.
definitely wasn't on, that toxic sort of a trip or anything like that. So I'm like, wow, this is new. And you think like if this was something that was an issue with me personally, there might be some sort of a trail leading up to that, like some sort of other behavior leading up to that, or some sort of like past work history leading up to that, which there was none. And this was ridiculous. So
Mm.
I ended up leaving there. And I started, as a corporate chef for another restaurant. And, I kept meeting opposition there. Like I got hired on to fix a lot of things there. And that's like a lot of what I used to do in my past as a chef too, especially when I got out of college for that, was I would go to different restaurants, kind of like Kitchen Nightmares with Chef Ramsay, right? And I would like educate their wait staff. I would educate their kitchen staff. I gain, like 20% of their business back,
Hmm.
that sort of thing. And, be on contract and say, okay, well, if you want to keep me on, it's going to cost you a lot. But, this is, the contract that we have. So let's go ahead and meet this criteria and, get them basically from a failing restaurant into a successful restaurant. And
Mhm.
literally that was my shtick for a while. Like my email was even culinary hero at Gmail, even culinary hero at Yahoo. Like I had to capitalize on that. Right. So like I would just go in and basically save the day. And so that's what I got hired for at this last place.
Okay.
So I kept meeting opposition after opposition there, and I did get hired straight on into upper management, and I was able to root out and systematically put in place some fixes of the orders that they needed to be right. And I kept meeting opposition from the staff, from my bosses, from everybody. And
Mm.
I'd go home like thinking, like, wow, I'm doing my job, aren't I? Like I'm doing this right. And I was getting really confused and in my head and in my ego about it, like, why is it okay? And then I was watching a bunch of I watch a lot of tarot on YouTube and stuff like that, like, a lot of us do,
Yeah.
right? So I was getting a lot of insight, and they were all saying the same thing, like, hey, Gemini, because I'm a Gemini.
Me
they
too.
Oh, nice. Yay. So they're like, hey, Gemini, like, hey, if you keep meeting opposition and you're approaching it in a healthy way, that's the universe saying that it is not meant for you and you need to move on. I'm like, well, crap, I've been moving on time after time after time. Like, I keep moving on and I keep thinking, okay, so this job is different. This job, it'll be better. This will be, healthier. However, I was miserable. I was just, punching a clock, and I used to have a passion for that cooking, putting my energy into it and providing for guests, a very excellent and noteworthy experience.
Mm-hmm.
And that diminished over the last few years here, where I was just like losing that passion and getting more into my spiritual calling. And I've noticed a lot more coworkers and a lot of other people would come to me for counseling more. And I
Mm.
was also finishing up some Reiki at that point. So it all just kind of like married itself together perfectly. And you know what? Take this job and stick it where the sun don't shine. I'm out of here, like kind of thing. Like, I didn't say it that way, but that's kind of what I felt. I'm like, okay, I'm just leaving. This is not meant for me energetically anymore. I am out of here. Like, I got bigger fish to fry.
Mm.
I'm going to help people. That's what originally I thought I was hired on to, is to help people,
Yeah.
help these people instill like a greater practice. But no.
I love that part of stories, like everyone that is coming on the podcast, like they're going through this life that is misaligned, because that's like
Yeah,
most of us, that's what we experience. Like, you don't come here and have like the perfect life aligned since birth, right? So we have
yeah,
to experience stuff,
yeah,
and then you got this moment, right, that breakthrough moment where you've been facing resistance, and you're trying your best to just like move ahead and like continue, keep pushing, and
yeah,
then like I'm very interested in that moment, that exact moment where you're going like, no, this is it. I have had just
yeah,
enough of that, and I'm stepping outside this, because you've been in that dark night of the soul for quite some times, and then you were still working in environment. And I know I've been working in a restaurant as well. This is hard. This is a hard job. Like, kudos to everyone that is working in that area, because no matter where you are in the restaurant, it's not easy.
yeah. I have
It's hard.
undying respect to anybody who's in the industry for more than 4 years. They get
Oh
my
yeah.
lifetime of respect and gratitude. Like, I'll always, even when I go out to eat, I know like what it's like. So I will always tip like way more than,
Yeah.
and the tipping culture is a thing that's been in a huge debate here as well. Like, shouldn't they just already be getting a living wage to begin with? Like, yeah, like,
Yes.
and the whole culinary industry, even, like, nobody really makes a living wage unless you're in upper management, which is really sad,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of great workers out there just breaking their back for somebody to get a cheap meal just so they can complain about it on Yelp.
Yes.
So
It's
yeah,
hard. And like being in that dark night of the soul and like realizing that there is more to life, and like keep being in that environment. Like, how was that
yeah.
for you?
So to keep going through that time and time again, I thought, okay, so this will make me stronger. I will learn from this day. I will learn from the next day, and I will continue. And I thought, I kind of purposely kept putting myself into these situations as a means for growth, as a means for development, because
Right.
I knew that this wasn't going to be my forever job. I
Mm-hmm.
knew that I wanted to help people eventually. So I kept putting myself into very difficult situations, knowing that I could learn from them and eventually heal from them. Yes, it was to some detriment to myself. However, because I needed to come home and lick my wounds for a while, and like shut everything out, like go do
Right.
some grounding, be alone for a while. Um, just Yeah, and even the equipment like has this vibration to it, then that would just throw me off. Like,
Mm.
I was getting like super sensitive to that. Microwaves is another thing. Don't even
Mm.
started on. But anyway, so I was dealing with that on a day-to-day basis by coming home and meditating. I would have this like strict practice, like waking up, meditating, having like a healthy diet, like getting grounded,
Mm.
listening to all these different frequencies that do different things to my brain,
Yes.
and getting really into the research on that. Uh, and now I feel comfortable enough because I know it works on me. And I can definitely tell more of a difference having a distance from that.
Yeah.
Um, I can also help, administer that with other people and have that confidence that, this is going to work. I've even, with a couple of clients, have been able to reverse Alzheimer's using sound frequencies.
That's
So,
amazing.
yeah. Oh
That's
my gosh.
amazing.
I mean, it surprised the living daylights out of me even. And because I would work with a doctor, like I'm not a doctor, but the doctor's advice always goes first, and I could work in tandem with a doctor,
Yeah.
for additional care. So I would just do some simple sound frequencies and guided meditations and
Mm.
things like that, and some Reiki, and some educational things. And boy, this is that beautiful. And so just having a part in that was like all the fuel I needed. I'm like, you know what? I got this. I'm going to take that leap. And a lot of us recently, even like this last spring, so many of us took that leap. And I felt that like it's not just me, like it's you. It's so many others like us out there who are like in this like awesome, like transformative energy. And we're all
Yeah.
collectively raising the vibrations of everything.
Yeah.
And we are truly entering into our golden age by helping repair all this stuff. We're leading by example. Our children are seeing this, and our children are even brighter and more in tune and more intelligent than we could have ever imagined. Just imagine, like the way that we're paving for them, like what our next generation, what that's going to look like throughout the world. And that's passion enough. That's drive enough for me alone. Like, bet, all right, fine. I'll go through whatever the heck I need to go through because I know my children are going to have an awesome time in this environment, along with everyone else's children and, the future generations, what I'm getting.
Yes.
And that just
I
like,
totally agree with that.
yeah,
This is like you can see them when you meet those younger generation, the Gen Z and the Gen Alpha, I think. They just named it like
yeah,
two new generation. It goes super quickly now.
yeah,
And they're amazing. I have three girls like between the age of 6 and 12, and they just amaze me how like
yeah,
smart and sensitive and open and able to reflect at 6. Like
yeah.
like what?
They're
Like I was
those.
playing Barbie at 6. Like I was fighting with my sister about like that Barbie.
Yeah, I was He-Man and Lincoln Logs, Legos, like sticks outside kind of thing. We grew up like as we witnessed the birth of the internet and
Mm.
the birth of the information era, and we're all always worried, like, okay, the kids, are they getting too much screen time? I'm like, they know when enough is enough. Like they know
Yes.
when to stop. I'm like, I would always suggest it, but they always know, and they all they're like, hey, Dad, did you know about this red shield? You can filter the blue light automatically. I'm like, I love that you know that. And I love that you're coming to me for that. So thank you. I appreciate that. But you're so freaking smart, like just knowing that stuff. And I really think like we need to give them a little bit more faith as far as that kind of stuff goes. And it's more our egos trying to
Yeah.
catch that up. Right. And,
Yes.
and be
Yes.
like, okay,
Even
are you sure? Yeah.
yeah, even this morning for me, I was like, well, you girls, aren't you tired of just like looking at people living their life on YouTube? Like, are you gonna just like live your own life at one point? I was kind of triggered this morning, and they were like, "Mom, chill. Like this is
Yeah.
cool. Like we know what we're doing. This is cool. We're cool." And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, that's cool. I'm gonna take my chill pill and just trust that you know what you're doing.
It's so hard for us to do as
I
parents, right?
know.
It is so
Yes.
hard. like, oh yeah, okay, I trust you to do the right choices. I mean, even them knowing that we're trusting them to have the right choices, that I think that instills them to make the better choices a lot more, instead of
Yes.
like when my parents were like, do as I say, not what I do.
Oh my
And like,
God.
just because I told you so, why can't you be more like your sister, and that sort of thing. I'm like, okay, watch me hit that self-destruct button just to defy you.
Yes.
Instead of like having the nurturing parents like saying, okay, I trust you to make the right choices, and I will be here to catch you when you fall,
Yes.
and I will be here to help educate you in what choices, like how you can make a better decision in the future. Like, instead of teaching them what to think, like how to think, like
Yes.
that is
Yes.
paramount.
Yes.
And that's, I think, like a lot of the homeschooling and the unschooling is gaining a lot more movement and
Yeah.
momentum now, with this whole online stuff that's happened as advent, as the pandemic kind of played out. um,
Mm-hmm.
and I think like it kind of backfired on those, like the cabal, where we went within as a collective, we went within to heal, and we reached out
Yeah.
through the web and through the internet to like be there for each other, to help learn from each other, and to
Yeah.
help, just, oh, it's so beautiful to be a part of
Yes.
this, and that like
Agree.
everybody is just been growing exponentially ever since then, and I can feel it. We're all along for this ride. Ah, it's just amazing. And so that's kind of like what got me into like wanting to get into like the YouTube thing.
Mm,
And be like, okay, well, I'm just going to do this to heal my throat chakra more. Like it needed to be done. And
right.
I like had a very diminished throat chakra. Even, you'd think like as a chef, you'd have that communication, but it wasn't always the greatest. It was very like more direct, like
Yeah.
do it,
You're like, yeah, in the
like
moment and like
directing
more directive.
yeah, it is more concise and more clear, instead of coming with compassion from a
Yes.
very, it wasn't always from a love center kind of thing. So the rune readings kind of spoke with me as part of my heritage. I'm half Norwegian.
Hmm.
And so I did pick some Norse runes for that. And I even, and I know it kind of goes like not really with the whole rune thing. Like I even teach like hand mudras, and solfeggio frequencies and the
Mm.
colors and the crystals and stuff like that, just to go along with it. And it's all beautiful. Like I want to share all of it all at once. I mean, blah, take all this information. So I love it. I love it because now I'm kind of fine tuning that with the YouTube, right? And I'm going to be doing like more intense rune readings, and like having a part one and a part two. So I know like my content's been getting a little on the long side, like around the 40-minute mark, like 30 to 40
Yes.
minutes.
Yes, I've noticed.
Yeah. So I there's just so much like I want to share and like go into it. So I think I'll just do like a part one and part two of it, like do like a little intermission, like maybe have a little cartoon character going across the screen. Um, but it'd
Why
be
not?
something cute, something fun. Yeah, why not? Right? Maybe like a little
Yeah.
animated rune or something.
Yeah. Let's have fun with it. Like it
Yeah.
doesn't really matter. Like, you
Yeah, life's
know,
too short to not have fun with it. I don't care if it
exactly.
looks not professional to someone else. Like I love it, and
Yeah.
it's being effective as far as me communicating to the collective. Like you take it or leave it kind of thing. And I really like that kind of prospect too, and it's not really an ego driven or a toxic frame of mind too, and I'm just saying take it or leave it either. It's like I would rather you just keep your opinion to yourself if you don't like it, kind of thing.
Yes.
And if like, oh, like our parents always said, say something nice or don't say it at all.
Yeah.
More or less when my sister were fighting, and my sister and I were fighting all the time, but that's that's another can of worms. But when
So
I kind of like taken a lot of that into consideration, and every day is like a new lesson, every day is a new aspect that I get to share. So I wish I could do the rune readings every single day. However, with my like culinary background, I also do herbalism. I grow my own herbs here. I distill them in my kitchen. I bottle them myself. I'll even do blessings and throw in some like tiny crystals in with them. I do like the spray bottles, and I do like the
That's
dry herbs.
amazing.
It's really cool because it's like you can actually use it on your skin. It's not like the stuff you buy at Walmart, or even it's comparable to, like, I don't want to say like, but okay, doTERRA is kind of comparable to that, but except, like, we're cutting out all the middlemen. It's not as much of a pyramid schemey kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So we're doing this, my family and I, where we're growing the herbs, here in Wisconsin. Yes, it is tough. We do have like indoor lighting and
Yeah.
plants like everywhere around the house. Plants. And we love it because, we get to snack on them too. We get to incorporate them with our family meals. We get
Yes.
to, share the same plants get loved and then shared with whoever gets to, purchase whatever oil or extract or whatever it is, from that. So I also do that. So that's why, runes are like every 3 days. I need time to take care of the plants. Also do
Yes.
counseling, also do Reiki. I'm in a lot of spiritual fairs too, like, wellness or holistic fairs. And I'm in those like every weekend. And when I get back, my voice is so hoarse. But talking to these people like all the time, like a lot of people are coming. PEMF and Rife frequencies are like two little wands that I get to use, and they emit like this really cool frequency, and it's measured up to like 8 feet in diameter, like this big torus field of energy, and it's a big electromagnetic field pulse. But that's a lot more limited because people with medical implants aren't able to participate in something like that because it does amplify them. It
Right.
doesn't short them out, but it does amplify them. So it could cause something like somebody who has a defib in their heart, like it could cause it to go off. Like, so we don't want that, right?
Nope.
We don't want somebody's hearing aid to, squelch, like super high pitch, kind of thing. But it is very passive. It's used a lot in sports medicine for like physical injuries. However, I sleep next to it a lot of times, and like just for like, okay, recently I've been working on my root chakra again. So I'll just have, the 396 hertz solfeggio just going on through it. And it's something I could just nice and passively, absorb as I'm going throughout the day. So that's like, we're all multifaceted beings with multifaceted interests. And I always use whatever healing has worked on me first, and then like offer it to somebody else then. So
That's
like,
amazing.
yeah.
Amazing. So like when you were doing all those things, when you were cooking, when you were still a chef,
Yeah.
like how did that happen? Like you were using those tools and then like why, like was it like not enough? Like you were trying to like regulate yourself, right? From the cooking industry and like trying to get back into your own self, and where did you reach that point of like, this is not enough, I cannot just do this and meditate and be okay with going to cooking and like yelling and like the stress and
It really came down to where my heart was and how much emotion and feeling I was invested in it. Because with the culinary background, I always thought, what we put into our bodies greatly affects the outcome of who we are. So like, you are what you eat, as the old adage says, and that's very true. And a lot of what we experience can be healed through what we put into our bodies, like whether it's ginger or, more veggies or, other amazing plants and veggies and other things out there, right? So I always had that firm doctrine, that firm belief of like, okay, this is holistic. This is the way, a culinary aspect of things should work, to where, you're having a good, healthy offering for people. But okay, so with here in Wisconsin, it's fish fry Fridays, prime rib Saturdays, and that's what people do. And that's, and they don't care how deep fried something is. You can fry it 3 times and they'll say it makes it taste better. That's the kind of stuff we're dealing with here. But it's not. So like restaurants tend to gravitate to where the money is, right? So they want to go to
Yes.
the practices like of the public and and respond to what the public wants instead of like, hey, we're having an obesity kind of thing going on. Let's offer like 2 more salads on our menu and eliminate one deep fried item or something
Yeah.
like that, and just show that we're being health conscious. So I kept meeting adversity with situations such as that.
Mm.
And like my heart was not in it as much when I kept getting that struggle of the adversity, like even the communication wise would always be broken down, or gaslighting. I would be gaslit quite
Mm.
often, where they would say, we had this conversation. I'm like, oh yeah, we did we? Okay, sure. Yeah, do you have a recording of it? Because apparently I missed the whole thing. That sort of thing. And
Mm.
so I eventually, one day I walked in and they had like a whole bunch of stuff like all just laid out, and they said, okay, Eric, this is your problem now. And no like warning, no phone call, because I was on phone call 24/7. I was upper management, right? Like no warning whatsoever. They just had like all this product laid out and like all these people, like kitchen and wait staff people around, looking at this, like wondering what the heck they do with this problem. And when I said, okay, like, okay, this is what we can do to resolve this issue, we can prep it up, you can do this, that needs to be thrown out, okay, just starting directing traffic and delegating, right? And they said, well, we're not going to do that, you need to take care of all of this. And they flat out like told me that, like, even, okay, so the other management, like my boss, the wait staff manager, and my who is supposed to be my equal in the kitchen management, were all three of them like attacking me, saying, okay, you need to deal with this. And I said, do I really though?
Mm.
And I said, you know what, this is it. This is the straw that broke the camel's back. And you know what? Part of me thinks that you're asking me to do this because you know that it'll push me away. So you know what? You asked for this, and you're receiving 100% of what you asked for. I'm
Mm.
here. So
So that was the official breaking point of like, I'm not
yeah,
taking this shit anymore. This is.
yeah. I was stressed out to the point of tears, and I
Mm.
don't cry very often. Usually it's tears of joy. Even
Mm.
so, if I do, like, because I just appreciate things so much, like I have an agape love, kind of thing
Yeah.
going on, and like I love everybody, and like my heart is huge, like, and my cup overfloweth for the collective, and like I would rather cry over the overabundance of love than all the hardships and strife out there. But I was
Yeah.
caught crying in that moment of the hardships and strife. And I say, I can't, this is affecting me in such negative ways that I can't allow it to affect me anymore.
Yeah.
It keeps dragging me down day after
Yes.
day after day. And I keep having to do self therapy. And, I'm using all these therapies I have set aside for other people to, kind of establish some sort of a foothold in the community and for the practice and everything. I'm using all of that on myself. And I don't even have time for anybody else
Yeah.
because I'm constantly healing from this 3D job.
Mm.
And it was so toxic, right? And I know like a lot of us out there are feeling that way. Like a lot of us want to go like to the bar after work, or go socialize and be like, oh yeah, so and so really sucks. Oh yeah, let's jump on that bandwagon, and get a group of us together and let's all bash one another. Like, no, that's not the way it works, people. Come on.
Yeah.
Like, okay, how about you go home and you hug your family, like, how about even if you live alone, like, just go home, put your feet on the grass. When is the last time you, and I love asking people this too, in the three that are in the 3D, like a lot of factory workers around here too.
Yeah.
And I say, well, when is the last time you put your feet in the grass, like on purpose?
Yeah.
And they would really have to think and struggle to think.
Yeah.
The fact that you have a pause there lets me know that you need to do it.
Yeah.
Like just go sit in the grass, be under a tree, go hug a tree. I don't care. Look silly. I don't care. Like it doesn't matter what other people think of you when they see you hugging a tree. It really doesn't, dude. Like, yeah, be the tree hugger.
Yeah.
Be the grass sitter. Like go out there and just heal yourself. Do things in a healthy way, right? So that's kind of like what I was doing. And getting into these therapies that I have, like self Reiki, because I would have a knee injury, or I have like multiple times over Achilles tendonitis, and I'm dealing with that where I can barely walk because I'm so just worn out from work. Or
Yeah.
I would put on like 8 miles, no kidding, with a pedometer, 8 miles a day, just walking like so much, in that industry, and everything was like, go, 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 high stress, go,
Yeah.
go, go. So they were short steps, right? And like very quick steps, and
Mm-hmm.
a lot of dancing around tight quarters with a lot of dangerous equipment, knives,
Yeah.
or hot grease, you name it. And so like super high stress, not a very thankful job. And I was like, okay, guys, that is it. we're done. Like I've hit rock bottom with you guys, and there's nowhere to go but up, and I greatly look forward to it. I took that leap of faith. It was scary. It was so scary. I was in this like self therapy like for a week after I did that, and I just like closed myself in my room and I meditated like no other. I would of course go outside, and do some grounding work. I'd go for barefoot walks around the park, into the water, wade in the water. That's beautiful for healing emotions, y'all. Even watching water for 20 minutes will have a tremendous effect on your emotions, right? So if you're just sitting at the park, watching the water, so you're getting your grounding, you're getting your emotional balance, right? You're doing a lot of that. So I'm like, heck yeah, I can do this every day. And I
Yeah.
do. Ever since then, I get to do that every day. I get to heal people. I get to have this big smile on my face every day, waking up with like overflowing gratitude for all this awesome energy. And you know what? Since I made that decision, I've gotten confirmation after confirmation from divine, like all these signs coming at me. Like I use numerology quite a bit, so I get a lot of these angel number hits, or spirit guides. I get a lot of those sort of hits too, like little baby rabbits or dragonflies. You just, divine's always trying to talk to us. It's always up to
Yeah.
us to listen. We're the antenna, right?
Yeah.
So and so that's the whole chakra system, is like that's the antenna for divine to communicate with us. So I'm like, it's up to us to always listen. So it could be
Yeah.
that high pitched ringing in your right ear. When you get that, you pay attention to what's going on around you, because divine's like got a huge message for you. Usually that's an animal, or usually that's like, oh, look at what time it is, look up that number. It's little practices like that like you get that confirmation that you need in that moment. And I guarantee you it works. It works 100% of the time. Like it is always going to be steering you in the right direction. And
Yeah.
it's so beautiful. Like,
That's amazing. I love that. Since I'm living a more aligned way of like going through my days, right? Like I've been seeing those numbers, those
yeah,
aligned number all the time. It's just like every time I'm just like checking what time is it. It's like
yeah,
1:11 or 2:22, or like I'm watching a movie, I will hit pause and then it's gonna be like all the same numbers, like
yeah,
44 minutes, 44 seconds that I just hit paused on. Like, like
yeah.
it's just like all over the place, right?
Yeah, when you get those repeated numbers, that's like even a bigger sign. But I even challenge people to say, okay, look up even the oddball numbers, like 847 or something like that. Like just numbers that don't even seem to add up. And I guarantee you there's a message in there for you as well. It's not just when it's like angel numbers, like repeating numbers, but I really like palindrome numbers too, like when they're the same on either side, like 717, 646.
Right.
636. Like, I mean, like, what's the difference between 646, 636? And I like diving into that, and like awesome knowledge. And there you go, awesome
Yes.
knowledge. And it is backed by science. It's all backed by science. It's
That's amazing.
Einstein even calls it spooky action at a distance. That's quantum physics. It is quantum theory at its best. And you know what? Science is agreeing more with spirituality than it ever has in the past. And pretty soon the two of them will be almost indiscernible. I can almost see that coming up. Like, we have this advent of AI and stuff, and people are all worried about that. I think it could be a really beautiful thing, though.
I think too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree with that. It can be a really beautiful thing. We just need to learn how to deal with it.
Yeah,
And
like, it's a tool, right?
yeah,
So it's like social media is a tool. Like, a lot of people say, oh, I like this one over that one because this one's been good to me, this one's been bad to me. I'm like, really, they're all tools. So like, you're just telling me like this tool because you use it in a better way. And this tool, you just don't take good care of it. So therefore it's not a good tool. Otherwise,
yeah,
in somebody else's hands, that's a perfectly good tool, you know?
yes,
um yeah, that's the way I like to kind of describe it, like that social media is kind of the tool thing. So
yeah, I love that.
yeah.
So we were talking earlier before we started to record. We were talking about the rune system, and
Yeah,
I wanted, like, I had this intuition of asking you to do a short reading because
sure.
I've never experienced that before, and I think the viewer would really enjoy that.
Okay, so shall we have a question for the viewers then? Would you like to ask a question for the viewers, or shall I just into it?
Hmm.
Viewer's choice, or your host's choice, hostess's
Yeah,
choice.
like a question for the viewing. Let's say, like, could it be anything? Like, what would be the next subject that I should talk about?
Next subject you should talk about? Yeah, sure. It can be anything. So you want to go into your next subject, like maybe partnerships and your gifts? How about that? This is Gibo. This is the rune of partnerships. So a lot of us are entering into those new partnerships a lot, like, especially with this
Hmm.
new moon coming up, right? It's in less than a week. So we're
Hmm.
starting new things. We're instilling new practices, and we're wanting, like, this blue moon is like a second chance of that illumination coming to fruition, right? So those spiritual gifts are on the increase. So
This is
this is,
amazing.
yeah, this is Therius Us. This is the thorn. This is the giant. This is Thor's hammer. So everything we need to do, it needs to be done thoroughly. Like, when we have a thorn in our side, we don't want to pull out part of the thorn and be okay with it. We don't want to say hi to the giant and kind of sidestep it. Like, we need to address these issues thoroughly, right? So moving forward, like, it's calling for like a firm and quick, like Thor's hammer is a lightning strike. It needs to be very clear communication as to either building or letting go of what is going to be this transitional period for you. You're asked to get into grounding work more. This is the ox rune.
Hmm.
So this is like more of your natural healing, more of your natural vitality, and getting out into nature, right? So a lot that's more into like the ox being into the grounding work. I always say that's more the grounding rune is like Taurus if it were a zodiac sign, because
Hmm.
we have nothing but great things to look forward to as far as building our legacies. This is the rune of legacy. This is Othala. This is our paradigms, are things that we pass down into future generations.
Hmm.
Okay, this is literally like the home, or a religious concept or belief, something that gets passed down to another generation. So this is going to move and really affect those sort of things. And the possible outcome of that is all in abundance. This is Fehu. This is the first rune of the Elder Futhark alphabet, right? So this literally means cattle or abundance or wealth. So with a lot of that wealth comes a lot more of added responsibilities. So we're asked to nurture in a very healthy way our responsibilities moving forward. Okay, one more rune for you. And
Yeah.
so let's go with a healed divine masculine. Successful planting of a seed. That's what this is, y'all. This is Ingwas. This is the god Freyr's rune. Also, this is fertility, peace, and plenty. Like, this is divine healing of the masculine coming up. So
I
buckle up.
love that.
We're going for a ride.
This is amazing. That's so funny because before we started to record, we actually were talking about healing the divine masculine. So it's
Yeah,
pretty amazing, and I feel like this podcast and the people that are listening to this podcast right now, like it's all about partnership. It's all about building a community and building intimacy and relationship,
sure.
and I feel like this is the actual legacy that we can bring to the next generation, or part of one legacy that I want to bring forward, because I feel like wherever we're going, this virtual space is amazing, and
Yeah.
we need to interact with each other, not with text, but with words. And even though we're like apart, we're not like able to touch each other, but the fact that we're creating a space where we can exchange,
That's the
it's
thing too. We're able to infect change among others just by leading by example, right? And so that's interesting because I pulled that heart chakra token. So
yeah.
I always pull a chakra token at the end of my readings as well, just to kind of go over like an additional like therapy that we could use or something like that. So the mudra is like this beautiful like opening up of the lotus blossom that we get to hold in front of
Yes.
our heart and listen to that wonderful 639 hertz solfeggio frequency.
Hmm.
So our heart has this energetic field that's measured by science. Like it goes like about as far or even further than you can reach your arms. Like, isn't that amazing? Because we can still, even though we have this great distance, we can still affect one another with our heart energy, with our heart field. Like, I mean, that's quantum physics at its best, right? You can walk into a room and always feel its energy,
Yeah.
right? And everyone, nobody can deny that. And but you can also like have like somebody's got this infectious laughter or this awesome smile. They're just a magnetic personality, and their heart chakra just like rubs up against yours, and you're starting to feel that light and that levity, and it's like it's so beautiful. And then we get to affect each other in these wonderful ways.
Yes.
It's so great. Yeah. Yeah.
It's
I'm
amazing.
so
Yeah.
happy for your podcast as well, because this is a beacon, right? This is like a shining light of facilitating. You're creating this space for all these wonderful individuals on here. Like, I've had some tough acts to follow on here. Like, come on, you are all amazing out there. Like, thank you. You're all great out there, and this is I compliment you and this podcast. This is such a beautiful space that you've created, and to help facilitate healing, to help other people get like this sort of information, and the sort of relation too. Like, hey, I've experienced some of that too. I could see a little bit of me in that person, and
Yeah.
what did they do to heal? Let's listen in on that.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Yes,
love.
it just kind of happened like that, like I've reached out, and mostly, like, I would say like 98% of the people that have reached out are about are all about healing in different modalities, and having having their takes
Yeah,
on the way they're going through at that thing, and their stories, and like seeing the shift, like to actually notice that shift, from, let's say, the 3D world to the 5D. Let's say that. Let's
yeah.
call it that today.
Oh yeah, I firmly believe we're shifting already. Yeah,
So like to notice that, to witness that, and to share that, it makes it possible for the world to see that this is happening. This is not just a YouTube channel of like I'm saying stuff. Like, I'm actually wanting to witness all kinds of story that are like people that actually went through that thing, like all together in one place, for
Yeah.
people to be like, oh shit, yeah, this is happening, this is just happening, this is it, like,
Just got goosebumps. Yeah, that's
yeah,
beautiful.
this is just happening, and let's be part of it, like,
Yeah.
let's, yeah.
Let's create this revolution together.
Yes,
I
yes.
love
I
it.
feel like I chose the right title.
I think you did. Like,
you know?
it's not even a sort of anarchist. It's just like, hey, like we're understanding that this is needed. This a change is needed, and we're all feeling that. We've always, kind of felt this intangible sort of like a change needed, but what is
Yeah,
that exactly? It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter what all these labels are. Just be the best version of you that you want to be. Like, be the you that you wanted to be when you were growing up,
yeah,
and just lead by example. Just be that beautiful individual that you are, and everyone else, like, what their opinions are of you doesn't really matter so much when you're operating from that love center, right?
yes,
And so
yes.
when we're just creating that space and facilitating that space together, it's just such a wonderful harmony. Like, we all have different
Hmm.
frequencies that we're vibrating together in like this beautiful chorus, and it's so astounding. Like, that intangible then will become tangible, and we won't know what it's called until well after the fact. Like,
Yes,
yes, we're on this golden age trip. Like, we're on the cusp of this, right? Yes, it is happening. Like, we are at the beginnings of that full-on revolution, and I don't believe we'll see the change of the transition, like the full fruition of it in our lifetimes, Marigol, you and me.
yeah,
But like, our grandchildren definitely will.
yeah.
And
We're seeing this start of that ripple effect, right?
yeah,
Like, I've never been surrounded with that many people, even though it's like mostly virtual.
yeah,
Like, I feel every one of the people that are listening to this podcast, everyone that is like commenting on the podcast, or like, it doesn't matter how. I feel that by gathering so many like people that are thinking in the same direction, like,
yeah,
we can feel it, even though we're not like exactly seeing it, like when I'm going out in that 3D world. Like, we were at that baseball game the other day, and I was like, oh shit, oh yeah, that's right, this is happening also. Like, I forgot, like, I almost forgot that there was like this other world that is like not stuck, I won't say stuck, but that is still at some level, right? That they're
yeah,
not like
yeah. You can
already
still recognize.
ready maybe to go. And as I was saying the other day, I was like, it doesn't matter if you're eating meat or if you want to be vegan. If your goal is to eat healthy, like, it doesn't matter how it shows up,
Yeah,
because for you it's going to be this, and for you it's going to be this, and for me it's going to be something else. And it doesn't matter if we can all agree on, like, we want to be healthy.
I love that. Even Frederick Nietzsche, he said, "You have your way, I have my way. As for the right way, the correct way, the only way, it does not exist. Except for, I would like to argue the point, love. Love is always the
Yes,
way.
yes,
But love in a certain way but to love divine is always going to be the way. Like, for other people that will look differently, but when it comes down to it, you're operating from a love space. So that's the only part where I would disagree with that quote. But
right. Yeah,
but
I
yeah,
agree with that. Yeah. So when you're coming from that love space, it doesn't matter, because we're all going in the same direction. Like, it doesn't matter if you want to call yourself like Christian or spiritual or Buddhist, or it doesn't matter if we're all going in the same direction. Like, the people that are more like aligned with the Christianity, they're going to go with this person, and that's going to be the group that's going to move forward in this direction. And we're all having a way, to bring stuff forward, and we can all attract different people, and that's the ripple effect that is going to be
oh yeah,
created, by us stepping into an aligned way. Like, we're going to attract all
yeah,
kinds of people, all kinds of different people. You're going to attract so many people that I'm not going to attract, because, like,
and
it,
vice
it
versa.
doesn't matter. Yeah. And the fact that we're all going in the same direction, we're just bringing more people in.
Oh yeah. I love this, like the divine examples that we're all leading from in healthy, loving ways. Just by being ourselves, by being unique, by putting ourselves out there confidently with a secure sense that, divine's got my back. That's all we really need. And, let everything else fall into place with divine guidance, and just always in a sense of gratitude for whatever comes along, even if that ends up being a hardship, right? Because there's always a lesson in that.
Always, always,
Sure.
always. And there's always going to be, like, from my experience, I cannot tell for everyone, but from my experience, I've been through all kinds of dark shit. And it always leads to something bigger, greater, more beautiful. It's like, even though it's hard and it's like yucky and tricky, and by me keeping the focus on what the real deal here is here,
Yeah,
like, instead of like raveling or spiraling down into like, this is my experience, right? Yeah, just like moving through this experience, like knowing that this is just an experience,
yeah,
right? And
yeah.
it's you're
We
gonna move through it, and something else is gonna happen after.
we came here to learn. Like I have a feeling like our souls were drifting along, and then there's like this 3D net that we got snagged into, and we had to learn something in order to get out of that net and to like proceed on our journeys. Like we're all here to learn, and what that is doesn't even matter. Like we
Exactly.
don't need to put a label on anything. Like we don't need to put a label on friendships, on love, on strife, on misunderstandings, on failures, on anything. We don't need labels on that, y'all. Like a lot of that divine feminine versus divine masculine, I got like really into that, like especially with the toxic divine masculine being represented in a lot of females, and wanting to represent more of the divine masculine out there. Like this me, and like for a lot of the spiritual men out there, we are too few and far in between as a result of that. And we're seeing a little bit more of that divine masculine coming forward now, which is really beautiful. And, I'm calling on you men out there, like, don't be shy. Let's do this. Come on. I know you're out.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
let's do this. I cannot wait to see all those men just stepping out and like leading
Yeah.
themselves like into something that makes a lot more sense than what we have experienced so far.
Yeah. Yeah. And forget the stigma. Like, a lot of the stigma around here where I live, and it's probably the same with a lot of where you all live too, is where, oh, he's into spiritualism. Oh, he's got to be either gay or, this way or that way, or that he has to be like super femmy or something like that. I'm like, no, dude, I'm just like comfortable being me, right? I can be in my divine feminine and in my divine masculine, and I practice balance of both of them, and so should
Yeah.
you. And I'm just not being in the ego. So fellas out there, let's work on that divine masculine healing. The world needs more of it. We need to create spaces for all these divine feminine out there, so that they can heal their divine masculine as well. And maybe we need to take a page from them and also be healing our divine feminine while we're working on that, and just be okay with coming out, coming forward. Like it's almost like, oh yes, I'm going to be coming out of the closet, oh my goodness. Like no, it's not like that. It's just like coming forward, speaking your voice, heal that throat chakra, undo that crappy trauma that you were programmed with when you were growing up, because you weren't given the education to deal with that sort of stuff growing up. You were always expected and demanded from, and like you weren't nurtured the way you ought to have been. And it's time you heal and recognize that.
Yeah, I agree. That's where we're at. Even with the divine feminine, I feel like it takes a lot of space right now, and I feel that this is amazing. And it's all about that balance, because not because I'm a woman, I'm only a divine feminine. I'm also in that divine masculine, and to be able to you know, shift, because sometimes I do need to be like in action and in something more structured and more supportive of myself, my children. And then sometimes I'm more called to be in that caring and supportive, but not in the same way, you know, like the divine
Right.
masculine be supportive in a way that the divine feminine is like, it's another way, you know. And so I feel like we're all like, when we can move from one to another, i
Mhm.
think I think it's very amazing.
Yeah, I love that when we're just holding space, right? Creating that space for the other to heal, then we're magically working on ourselves too. Like that quote that says, as I work to light the path for others, I also light my own path. It has more facets than just the spiritual path and the guidance, right? It has like that facet also where, like, hey, you know what, you're holding space for your divine feminine in your life. By
Mhm.
doing that, you are healing and working on your divine masculine, and vice versa. And like we all have those aspects, like we all have that dualistic part of that, like the divine feminine and divine masculineness. It goes into the like the laws of the Hermeticism,
Yeah.
and they're like the polarities of things, the and I could just go on for days, but anyway,
Yeah,
um,
it's like the yin yang, right? Like we
yeah,
all have like this, the two parts are together, like we're
yeah.
not like separate.
You can't have one without the other. And yes, like you can't have light without dark, because otherwise, what would the light be? Like a lot of people say, kill the ego. I'm like, no, you want to have a healthy ego,
Yeah, you're gonna
because
die.
because that might be that dark side of you that you need to work and balance that light out with. Like you need to experience some of that dark in order to recognize it, to know when it comes up, to know that you know like what to do to heal. Like you need that balance in everything that we do.
Yeah.
It's like create like in everything we do, we should seek balance. Like even a little bit of wine is occasionally good for you, like good for your vasculatory system and everything. But too much of it, you know,
It's
obviously
toxic.
obviously it's bad, right?
Yes.
You know, even like meditation, you know, is really really good for you, but too much of it can also be very bad.
Yeah.
And then you're like painting yourself into this little bubble, and then you're basically a recluse, or you're cocooning,
Yes.
and you're not experiencing the challenging and more healthy growth aspects of self. So
Yeah.
like in
And
everything, balance.
yes, and I love that balanced analogy, because if you ever tried to be in balance, like on a thread, on a string, or like on a, I don't know what's the word.
Like a
Um,
tightrope.
yeah, like a tight rope. Like if you ever try to be in balance, like you're never gonna be just straight, like stuck in balance, you know? Like you're always gonna be like moving a little bit, and
Yeah,
then you're moving from the light to the dark a little bit, and from the feminine to the masculine a little bit, you know? You're not gonna be like straight both, like separated in the middle, and like, you
yeah.
know, you're not gonna be stuck in there. You're always gonna be moving, finding that balance, you know? And it's always like a matter of, like if you're going too far on that side, like you're gonna fall, right? And then
Yeah.
like you're gonna try to go into that side, and then you're gonna fall, and then you just got to be like a little bit on that side and a little bit on that side, and you're just like moving through it.
Yeah, it's like a dance, you know, it's like that
Yeah.
energetic wave, you know, like we're all going to have high points, we're all going to have low points, and that frequency and that vibration, like even vibrations, they're waves, right? And
Yes.
we're basically vibration manifestation, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, we're going to have high and low points too.
Yeah.
We can always like be up. And I think I went over this on my last rune video, even like we can always be on the top of the wave and think we can see forever. But you know, like we can always go right back down, and you know, just think that we can't see over the next wave. So then, you know, like you must think that then you know you can overcome it, because if you're on that low point of the wave, like just know that the next part is coming. It's always coming. Like for a lot of people who go through like their spiritual awakenings, like, oh great, fine, Danny, you know, I'm this, I'm that, and I'm super like this, and I got all these intuitive hits, and I'm doing so great, and then like a week later they're like, oh man, I feel like crap. I'm like, yeah, so how was that wave?
Yeah. Yeah, I love that analogy as well because I
Yeah,
feel like emotions are like waves as well, like,
yeah,
and I've always like said to my kids, like it's you just got to be present for that emotion, right? Because when you go in nature, you're never going to see like in the sea, you're never going to see like that wave coming in and just like staying there,
yeah,
like the wave is not going to keep pushing, it's going to retract at one point. It never happened that the wave is just like keep on pushing like no,
yeah,
no, I'm here on that wave, it's going to just retract because that's what it does, that's what
yeah,
nature does. And
yeah, and
so
it won't last
emotion is,
forever, you
yeah,
know.
it won't last forever because
You
it's
know,
it's just not like that in nature, so of course
yeah.
it's not going
So
to work like that for
it
us.
kind of goes hand in hand with like this golden age that's coming up.
Yeah.
We've gone through what, four other golden ages or something like that in within the Mother Earth, or while humans have been in Mother Earth, or I believe it's something like four, maybe five. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not 100% on that,
Not
but
at all.
we're on the cusp of this next one, right?
Yes.
And we are in a very unique experience, like where we get to find out why this collective amnesia hit us from all these other previous
Mm.
experiences, like why certain things are being kept a secret, and all
Mm.
that fun stuff. Like their wave is ending, like ours is
Mm-hmm.
beginning. So it's really great, and what a time to be alive. What a time to
Yes.
be alive. Wow.
Yes. Yes, the perfect time to be alive.
Yeah. I love it.
Amazing. Thank you so much. This was just so enjoyable.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, likewise. Thank you
So
for providing
I'm
the space.
thank you. Yeah, thank you for noticing and witnessing that. I will obviously link everything you're doing in the description below because I want people to reach out to you. I think you're
Thank you.
amazing. And yeah, I'm going to link that Facebook link of yours because you're doing lives in there. And I think this is very cool. And your YouTube channel is it's going really well, and your
Yeah,
videos are like better every week, and I'm really enjoying those.
thank you. Yes, I'm just actually hit 100 subscribers just a couple days ago, and I think
Yeah,
the whole channel is only about 2 months old.
that's
I'm not
cool.
paying for any of the subscribers or doing any gimmicky things, just that they're all natural. So I love that, and I love every one of you for being a part of that. Thank you very much. I'm so thankful for this opportunity. So yeah, it's
Amazing.
beautiful.
Amazing. All right. Well, we'll talk soon for sure. We'll keep
Yeah,
in touch.
definitely.
And people leave comments in the description below and reach out to Eric. Like he's going to be very much a help for you in your awakening situation, whatever it may be.
Yeah, if not, I'll point you to someone who will.
Yes. All right. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.